second part of leadership is what Dr. Ayaba is offering the Ambazonian people. He offered them a strategy that defeated Cameroon through the block-by-block strategy, through the internationalization and targeted diplomacy. Because he understood having a centralized leadership will mean instant infiltration and the end of the struggle. So it was a good thing, and it is a good thing. As a diverse people, we have many movements that tackles the enemy or the elephant from many different angles. Now the problem becomes, it becomes a problem when you have impostors, agents provocateurs in position of power, that their purpose is not for the people, but for their own economic survival, for their own future survival. Because some of them, they didn't build careers, they didn't go to school and take courses to build a life for themselves. So the liberation became a gateway for survival in the Western world, for a better life. Okay? So the liberation became a place where they want to seek social media fame. The perfect example is Samuel Sako and Chris Anu. They had no jobs. These were jobless people in the United States. They went to the US, they didn't go to school. They didn't take professional courses. They were pastors. They never built any successful organization or a following. So they had no life. So Cameroon know how to use people that are desperate to play the role. These are desperate agents that Cameroon has used really well to disintegrate the Ambazonian aspiration. So it's not many leaders. You see, there are many good Ambazonians. Look at what happened at the CDN. How many movements came together? How many groups came together? What happened? The many voices with one singular purpose. Many movements with one purpose. Many groups with one purpose. What happened? Was there a problem? No. There was no problem. They went there to consolidate their purpose, their commitment, and their focus to protect the dignity of the Ambazonian people, the aspiration of the Ambazonian people, and to fight collectively. What did those same agents provocateurs do? While Ambazonians are building consensus and finding a common position to speak with one voice, when these same agents provocateurs have caused such a damage to the Ambazonian struggle diplomatically by promoting infighting, banning groups, or giving orders for fighters to be killed and for fighters to attack each other. We went to Toronto, goodwill Ambazonians, seasoned Ambazonians, honest Ambazonians, Ambazonians that care for their people, all went to Toronto. With our diversity, we have a common purpose. And what happened in Toronto? Was there any fighting in Toronto? Was there any drama in Toronto? No. It was well-citizened people, well-committed people, people with good orientation and character. While we argue on positions, we agree on the outcome. What happened? Look at the effects today. So, as a diverse people, we have one common objective, and that's for our people on the ground. That's to make sure we end the suffering of our people, we end the pain on our people, we end Cameroon's occupation and Cameroon's presence, and give our people dignity and hope and the prospect for a better life. While we were in Toronto, the selfish, manipulated, empty noise and empty heads were busy cooking up lies. That I sang the Cameroon anthem, Dr. Ayaba carried the Cameroon flag, and that the Cameroon Prime Minister was in Toronto. These are shameless, selfish individuals. The only thing they want is to exploit the vulnerability of the Ambazonian people. We went to Toronto together. They've collaborated on projects, and they've collaborated on projects, and they talk to each other. They're still very civil with each other. We have differences, but we agree on the common outcome. There is no binding framework between the AGOVC and the IGK, because that a lot of proposals have been put in place. For example, AGOVC has proposed to the IGK a joint leadership or an alternating leadership to centralize the focus of the Ambazonian people, which that document, according to the executive office of the governing council, was framed by their own legal expert, Professor Carlton Anyangwe. It's been more than 2 years. The IGK has not responded. They have not said anything.
Well, that says a lot.
No, yeah, it says a lot, but that's what we are saying. Remember, leadership, it's all about intention. It's all about intention. So if you look at where we are today, currently, Cameroon has been defeated. The block-by-block strategy has wiped out Cameroon legitimacy on the ground. There is only one thing stopping the Ambazonian people from taking over. It's not that complex. It's not. Once you understand the objective of why the people are fighting, and you understand your strategy of how to defeat the enemy, it's not that complex. So with all this perceived chaos, there is massive progress on the ground. Since these imposters are imploding, let me just finish, please. Since these imposters have been imploding, have you realized that there is no infighting on ground zero? Ground zero is calm. Very calm. Forces are working together. You saw what happened in the state of Bui. All the forces in Bui came together to agree to focus on the enemy and work together.
So we are crossing our finger and hoping.
But again, Doctor, our focus is not Cameroon. This same question was asked in Toronto post the CDN retreat. We met in Toronto with Professor Carlton Anyangwe, the Vice President of IGK, and Honorable Cornelius. We all met with the Toronto community, and this same question was asked. The Ambazonian people are not, the Dublin Declaration is not for Ambazonian fighters or Ambazonian forces or an Ambazonian intelligence operatives to target civilian targets or the civilians of La République du Cameroon. No, it's only to target places where the Cameroon government gathers intelligence, plan the genocide on the Ambazonian people. So I just want to make that to be clear. And so whatever action is being taken by Ambazonian forces, Ambazonian fighters, Ambazonian intelligence operatives, it's only to target Cameroon intelligence infrastructure, Cameroon occupational systems, and Cameroon military infrastructures. This to what we've already said. If it's not done properly, it would divert the attention, the purpose for which we are fighting for. If it's not done properly, it would divert and probably defeat the purpose for which we're fighting for.
You mean legally?
Any mistake, yes, legally, any mistake to attack, remember we are fighting for self-defense, and the only reason the world is not coming after Ambazonians is because of the invocation of the right of self-defense. Once you start to cross the boundary from the Ambazonian territory and you start to attack Cameroonian civilians, it will be classified as acts of terrorism. So we should be very careful.
But can you please enlighten me as well as those that are watching that don't know, what is liberation tax?
before I answer the question on liberation tax, it's very important I add to what the chairman has said about what self-defense has done to the Amazonian people. Self-defense has changed the lives of the Amazonian people. If we did not invoke the right of self-defense, more than 1 million Ambazonians would have been killed. Through the act of self-defense, self-defense became a deterrent, first, to La République du Cameroon. It prevented them from slaughtering our people and to annihilate us completely or make us to become an extinct people. So self-defense, that's number one. It was an act of deterrence. It saves millions of lives. Number two, it turned the Ambazonian people from people that have accepted occupation as a normal norm in society and give our people back the self-esteem, the confidence, the humanity, their own self-worthiness. Self-defense gave our people a new sense of identity and empowerment, of hope, the right to life, the right to dignity, the life to pursue freedom and happiness. And it gave our people the confidence that truly we can actually liberate our people, truly we can end the occupation, truly we can defeat Cameroon, truly we can be a free people. Self-defense has changed who we are. Self-defense has also changed Cameroon's calculation of the Ambazonian people. From people that have accepted occupation to people that you cannot joke with, to people that you cannot treat them anyhow, to people that you cannot talk to them anyhow, to people that you cannot forcefully govern. It has changed everything about who we are. The confidence that we've never had before, the hope that we've never had before, the pride we've never had before. Before, like Cameroon soldier, police or gendarme will walk into any village, any town, any quarter, arrest grandparents, arrest grandmothers, arrest everybody, and they do whatever they want. Is that the case today? Hell no. They think twice before they venture somewhere. A liberation struggle, it's a difficult journey. It's a very difficult journey, just like most wars are very difficult journey. Others have gone through this. The South African paid a huge price for their freedom. It's not an easy thing. No one has ever promised the Ambazonian people, except those that promised Ambazonian government during the liberation struggle, that it was going to be easy and the world was just going to come and rescue them. Dr. Ayabacho, the leader of our liberation, made it very clear to the Ambazonian people it's going to be a tough journey. Our people became refugees. Thousands are in prisons. Thousands are living in the bushes. The Americans went through this. The Canadians went through this. Almost most nations and people across the globe that have regained their freedom from occupation, from tyranny, they've gone through this. It's unfortunate that the current consciousness of the world forced us to have no other choice but to embrace the odds. At the end, as we've already seen just in the last 5 years, look at where it has taken us. We know there is pain on the ground. We know there are people taking advantage of the defeat of Cameroon. We know there are people taking advantage of the social security vacuum that has been created on the ground because of the defeat of Cameroon. We understand that pain. the leadership is taking concrete steps to address those problems. That's why they created the anti-kidnapping force in Bamenda. It's a gradual process. We're building capacity, and in all areas where the Ambazonian Defense Forces have dominant control, there is zero kidnapping for ransom. There is zero extortion. But in places where there are loose forces, without command and control, without any oversight, those things are rampant. We understand. And so the capacity we are building, especially with the question you asked me about liberation tax, is meant to address those problems.
Okay.
And to stabilize our community and assure the Ambazonian people the war was not meant for our people to be victim of extortion. But obviously, once you open the vault, you know, thieves, gangs, kidnappers, and all kind of extortionists will take advantage of the chaos, and sometimes the people pay. They go through some level of inconvenience, some pain as well. But our people can be rest assured that all the policies the governing council is taking and implementing are, number one, they created the Akamatsus primarily to start to take over control and stabilize the ground to stamp out some of these things. And that's what we are doing, building more capacity, building more capacity. We will continue to engage other forces that are associated with loose movements without a hierarchy, command and control, and without a code of conduct, and continue to use the Ambazonian Defense Forces as the anchor of stability, as the example of good principles, so that these other forces can be educated on human rights issues, on how to protect the civilian population, how to deal with the civilian population, how to be sensitive to Ambazonian children, to Ambazonian women, to Ambazonian girls, and how to make sure that they live up to the code of conduct of the Ambazonian Defense Forces and the Geneva Convention. Now to the liberation tax.
Thank you. That was okay.
The reason the Ambazonia Governing Council, you see, leadership is the ability to solve problems. That's what leadership is. It's the ability to solve problems. So in a situation like our context, there are ongoing problems. Once you solve one problem, it takes to the next stage. You have to solve the next set of problems. The block by block strategy has defeated Cameroon, but has also created a vacuum on the ground, a massive vacuum on the ground. The world entrusted Cameroon to be the singular provider of security, peace, and stability. Once Cameroon is knocked off, the environment becomes chaotic. And the strategy of making the territory ungovernable, which defeated Cameroon, opened up this vault where communities were more vulnerable. And so would lose so many loose groups on the ground without having a command and control system. There is chaos on the ground. Cameroon also took advantage of that, of its defeat, and sent in agents, militias, gang, prisoners, all right, into the territory to cause more chaos and on the population for them to give up and start speaking up against the liberation. That's also happening. With the defeat of Cameroon and now having the ability to control territories, we control almost 85% of the state of Momo. The Ambazonia Defense Forces control 85% of the state of Momo. We control about 65% of the state of Lebialem. We control a greater part of the state of Bui, where our forces operating. We control a greater part of Upper Banyang in the state of Manu. So we control vast territories. And with the creation of the Akamatsu, we started stabilizing those liberated territories, building community schools and community institutions to empower our people to become independent. What about other parts of Ambazonia? What about other parts where there are loose groups that have no political oversight, that have no command and control structure? How do we make sure we kick Cameroon out of most part of Ambazonia and start to give our people a sense of independence, start to bring in the IDPs, start to bring in refugees? How do we do it? So with the defeat of Cameroon and the stalemate within the international system in terms of diplomacy, the leader conceived the next step to move the Ambazonian people forward. We cannot wait for the international system forever until the day they are very happy to call for negotiations between Ambazonia and Cameroon to end Cameroon's occupation, Cameroon's presence in the territory. So we're moving forward. The liberation tax is meant for the Ambazonian people to generate the revenues that are needed now to build the defense structures on the ground that will give Ambazonian people their territory back, to build the powerful defense structures on the ground that will help the Ambazonian people to stabilize Ambazonia and end kidnapping for ransom and the extortion on the Ambazonian people. So the liberation tax, what has happened within the Ambazonian liberation, because of the embezzlement within the impostors and the misappropriation of public funds, most Ambazonians are dissatisfied. We're frustrated. So we have to become creative. How do we generate money? How do we generate funds to make sure that we give ground zero, we give the forces on the ground the defense capacity, capabilities that they need to get the job done, to move the Ambazonian people from where we have static control in liberated territories, to move us to full transition where the Ambazonian people can start to implement a transition government on the ground. So that's what the liberation tax is for, to give us the capacity to bridge the gap between where we are and where we need to be in terms of the defense of homeland, in terms of the liberation. Because from the assessment of our leadership and our strategy on the ground, we know that if we raise $800,000, which is equivalent to 400 million CFA, we can be able to train 400 special commandos, and we'll be able to move the Ambazonian people from having static control. We can start to implement full transition authority on the ground within the next 8 months to end the suffering of our people, start to bring back IDPs and refugees, because we'll be able to have the ability to defend the greater part of Ambazonia and set up a transition government right on the ground by the collectivity of Ambazonian people, the leadership, and the defense of homeland. That's what the liberation tax is for. Next, the liberation tax is a tax for multinational companies that operate within Ambazonia. The liberation tax is a tax on foreign companies that operate within the territory of Ambazonia, that they have to pay a percentage of their annual earning to the people of Ambazonia to end Cameroon's occupation.